brake pads. Okay, this is, as luck would have it, this is Christopher's brake pads. Just came in yesterday and are getting shipped out Monday. So I borrowed them to show you. But the current brake pads that we're using, we've shifted over. We traditionally use Hawk racing pads, and for hardcore racing on some applications we would still use Hawk. But we switched over to G-Locks for our track guys for two big differences. Number one, they're really easy on rotors. And secondly, we can actually order them pre-bedded. As I say, like the Speed Therapy Academy alumni, they order brake pads, they're pre-bedded for free. What does pre-bedding mean? Well, when you get like a race type pad, you have to bed them. Essentially what that means is you waste a full session the first morning, because you have to speed, brake, until you get up to speed, until you get the brakes really hot, so hot that you smell them, and so hot that when you put your foot on the brake, it's hard as a rock and the car doesn't stop. Then you take it in, you let the brakes cool off completely, and next time you go out, you got brakes. So by getting them pre-bedded, it saves a whole session. But how do you choose which brake pads? See, that's a lot of people don't understand that brake pads are compounded in a specific target temperature range. If somebody wants to sell you track pads and they don't tell you what the temperature range is, don't buy them. You need to know. You've got to get, if you get we've seen people get a really aggressive race pads and go to the track, and their car will moan going around the corner. One of our alumni in the academy, we do this kind of video driving coach thing at the end, and I heard his brakes, and I told him right away that he's got too hard of a compound, that they aren't getting hot enough to work. So you've got to get the compound matched to the temperature they're running, and so that you get the best working out of them. If you've got a hard brake pad and it's squeaking, it's too hard, too high temperature range. If you got brake pads that burn up in 2 sessions, the temperature range is too low. So how do you know what temperature range? Well, that's a pretty good question. Call me. I know what temperatures these things run at. How do I know that? Well, yeah, we'll bring it. Uh-oh, you're gonna have to take down your banner. Okay. Okay. You can see in this rotor, it's got red paint. That paint is actually brake rotor temperature paint. What happens when it comes to this nifty little thing, and just a little jar of brake paint, what happens is it goes through different temperature ranges, the color changing. And it comes with a nifty little card, so you can see, but I did, we kind of blew that up. So you can see that, I got this out so I can read and show you at the same time, because I can't read backwards. Okay, so it starts at red, and it goes from 0 degrees up to at about, let's say 700 degrees. It starts going from red to red-brown. Now, when it gets up to about 800 degrees, it'll go from red-brown to brown. When it gets up to 1100 degrees, it'll go from brown to yellow-green. And when it gets to 1350, it'll go to green. When it gets to 1470, it goes to beige. And, over 1400, over 1500 degrees, it'll be beige. My brakes typically run in the 1200 range, well, for track driving. So I have brake pads that have the optimum braking in that 1200 range. And as far as brake pad compounds, let me kind of tell you, if you want some recommendations, please set up a 15-minute consult and talk to me. But I'll just give you kind of a brief overview of how many different compounds we have. And some of the temperature range crosses over, but there's different characteristics. So but we start out for a street pad, and this is like most performance street pads, they're good up to 800 degrees. Well, my rotors run 1,200 degrees on track, so obviously I'd burn them up. The next level up goes from 0 up to 1,000 degrees, which is kind of like, it's good initial pad. It's kind of like maybe an autocross type brake pad. And that's a kind of brake pad. You could drive it to the track, but it not recommended to drive it every day because it's not going to generate enough heat. And then the next level up goes from 74 degrees up to 1250. And that's kind of a good beginning brake pad if you're novice, intermediate, because typically you're not going to be, you haven't really learned how to really lean on the brakes yet. I also use that compound for a rear compound and for the track people. And then the next level up is from 118 degrees to 1475. Now I'll use that both for front and some back. Herstifer, that's what he wanted, so that's why I wrote the numbers on the back. You can see it goes from 118 degrees to 1475. That's the heat range. Now his back ones are the compound before, and they go from 74 to 1250. So I always put like a less aggressive pad on the back because the brakes, don't use the rear brakes as much as the front. So that's kind of like a track day pad. But the next level up is somebody that's an advanced driver who really drives hard. The compound goes from 173 to 1860. That's a lot of temperature. And then the next compound up on the chart actually goes from 210 to 1400. It's really designed for more like a lightweight, low horsepower car. And then we could get into like totally serious race brakes. The next one up goes from 255 to 2000. And the next one up from that goes from 610 to 2100. So, I mean, if your brake for first the 610 to 2100, you want to be in that 1500, 1600 range of brake temperature, so that you want to be right in the middle of the temperature range, because that's when you're going to get your best performance. And remember, I said, to bed brakes, it takes a full session, and that's kind of like one of the bummer things of putting new brake pads in, but getting them pre-bedded. And also, these pads are super easy in rotors. And don't forget, with high temperatures, you need a high temperature brake fluid. Absolutely, positively need a high temperature brake fluid, and I bleed my brakes every day at the track. I like fresh brake fluid.